Captain Daniel Hayes stood on the bridge of the frontier and watched the stars blur past. His ship was humanity's first real attempt at deep space exploration. After decades of crawling through their own solar system, humans had finally cracked faster-than-light travel. Now they were heading into the unknown, ready to meet whatever was out there. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," said Commander Laura Bennett from her station. She was the diplomatic officer, trained to handle first-contact situations. "It's coming from something called the HFY Supreme Council." Daniel nodded. "Put it through." The view screen flickered to life. A being appeared before them, tall and slender with pale blue skin and large black eyes. Its voice came through the speakers, cold and measured. "Humans of Earth, you are summoned to Zenith Prime. The HFY require your presence. You will come immediately." The transmission ended before Daniel could respond. Laura frowned. "That wasn't a request." "No, it wasn't," Daniel agreed. He turned to his navigation officer. "Set a course for these coordinates. Let's see what this is about." The journey to Zenith Prime took 3 days. During that time, Laura dug through every piece of information they had about the galactic community. What she found made her nervous. "Captain, you need to see this," she said, bringing up files on the main screen. "The HFY aren't just another species. They run everything. Every single alien race we've detected is under their control." Lieutenant Kevin Morris looked up from his tactical station. "How is that possible?" "There must be thousands of different species out there. The HFY are telepathic," Laura explained. "Apparently, they can control minds. No one has ever successfully opposed them. Species that tried are listed as extinct." Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. "And they've summoned us to their capital world." "It gets worse," Laura continued. "From what I can gather, they don't negotiate. They give orders and expect obedience." When the frontier arrived at Zenith Prime, Daniel understood why the HFY felt so confident. The planet was surrounded by hundreds of ships from dozens of different species. All of them moved in perfect formation, like parts of a single machine. A HFY escort guided them down to the surface. The capital city was massive, built from white stone that seemed to glow in the sunlight. Towers reached toward the sky, connected by bridges that defied human engineering principles. Daniel, Laura, and Kevin were led into the Grand Council chamber. The room was enormous, with a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadow. Seated on raised platforms were 12 HFY, their faces expressionless. The center figure, who wore robes that shimmered like water, spoke first. "I am High Speaker Kethmal. You stand before the Supreme Council of the HFY Dominion." Daniel stepped forward. "I'm Captain Daniel Hayes, representing Earth and humanity. We received your summons." "You did not receive a summons," Kethmal said. "You received a command." "There's a difference." Around the chamber, Daniel noticed other aliens standing silently. Their eyes were glazed over, their movements mechanical. It was like watching puppets on strings. "We've come to establish diplomatic relations," Laura said carefully, "to learn about the galactic community and find our place in it." Kethmal's eyes fixed on her. Suddenly, Laura gasped and grabbed her head. Daniel moved to help her, but she waved him off. "I'm fine," she said, breathing hard. "Just a headache." Kethmal looked surprised. Just for a moment. Then his face returned to its neutral expression. "Curious. Your mental defenses are weak, yet you resist." "We're not resisting anything," Daniel said. "We just want to talk." "You misunderstand your position," another council member said. "The HFY do not talk with lesser species. We guide them. We direct them. We ensure order in the galaxy." Kethmal raised one hand. Around the chamber, the other aliens suddenly moved in perfect unison. turning to face the humans. Their eyes were completely empty. "This is what awaits you," Kethmal said. "All species serve the Dominion. All species benefit from our guidance. You will return to your world and inform your leaders. Earth will submit to our authority. Your people will be assigned tasks suitable to their limited capabilities." Daniel felt anger building in his chest. "And if we refuse?" "Refusal is not possible," Kethmal said simply. "Those who cannot be guided must be removed. We have extinguished 17 species who proved incompatible with the Dominion's order. We do not wish to make Earth the 18th, but we will if necessary." Kevin stepped forward. "You're threatening to wipe out our entire species because we won't be your slaves?" "Slavery is a crude term used by primitives," Kethmal replied. "We offer purpose. We offer direction. We offer a place in something greater than yourselves." Lavra had recovered from whatever the Kethvari had tried to do to her. She spoke carefully. "What exactly do you want from humanity?" "Your world has resources we require," Kethmal explained. "Your people will extract them. Some humans show aptitude for maintenance work. Others will serve in menial capacities. Your military forces will be disbanded. Your government will be dissolved. The Kethvari will administer Earth directly." "That's not going to happen," Daniel said flatly. The council chamber went silent. The other Kethvari looked at Kethmal with what might have been surprise. Clearly, no one had spoken to them like this in a very long time. "You refuse?" Kethmal asked. "We refuse," Daniel confirmed. Kethmal stood. His eyes locked onto Daniel's. The captain felt something pressing against his mind, like invisible hands trying to pry open the door. It was uncomfortable, like pressure building behind his eyes, but nothing more. The Kethvari increased the pressure. Daniel winced but remained standing. Around him, Laura and Kevin also showed signs of discomfort, but neither collapsed. Finally, Kethmal stopped. He looked genuinely puzzled now. "Your species is defective. Your minds lack the proper structure to receive guidance. Maybe we're just built different," Kevin said. "It matters not," another council member declared. "Defective species cannot be tolerated. They spread chaos and disorder. High Speaker, I recommend immediate correction." Kethmal nodded slowly. "Agreed. Captain Hayes, you will return to your world. You have 6 of your months to prepare. A correction fleet will arrive at Earth and remove the human problem." This audience is concluded. Guards escorted the humans back to their ship. Once they were aboard and heading away from Zenith Prime, Daniel called his senior staff together. "We just declared war on an empire that controls the entire galaxy," he said. "An empire that has never lost a fight. They tried to control our minds," Lavra said. "I felt it. It was like someone trying to reach into my head and take over. But it didn't work." "It didn't work on any of us," Kevin added. "Why? I don't know," Daniel admitted. "But that might be the only advantage we have. We need to get back to Earth and warn everyone. We have 6 months to figure out how to fight an enemy that has never been beaten." The frontier jumped to faster than light speed, racing toward home. Behind them, the Kethvari began assembling their fleet. They had destroyed 17 species before. Humanity would simply be the 18th. Neither side knew yet that this war would change the galaxy forever. The message from the frontier reached Earth 3 days before the ship itself arrived. By the time Captain Daniel Hayes walked into the military command center, the entire planet was already preparing for war. Admiral Christopher Wade stood at the center of a massive holographic display showing Earth and its colonies. He was a veteran of the Mars conflicts, old enough to remember when humanity thought its biggest threat was itself. "Captain Hayes," Wade said, extending his hand. "I've read your report 5 times. Tell me I'm misunderstanding something. I wish I could, sir, Daniel replied. The HFY control everything out there. Every species we detected, every civilization, all of them are under HFY domination. And they expect us to submit or die. Wade pulled up images from the frontier sensors. These other species, they just obey? They don't have a choice, Commander Laura Bennett said. She had come with Daniel to the briefing. The HFY are telepathic. They get inside your head and take over. We felt them trying to do it to us. But it didn't work, Wade noted. No, sir, it didn't. We don't know why. A new voice joined the conversation. I might have an answer to that. Everyone turned to see Dr. Helen Parker entering the room. She was Earth's leading neurologist and had been studying the reports from the frontier for the past 72 hours without sleep. I've analyzed the descriptions of what you experienced, Helen said, bringing up brain scans on the holographic display. The HFY use some form of direct neural interface. They project their consciousness into other minds and override voluntary control. So why didn't it work on us? Daniel asked. Helen smiled tiredly. Because human brains are weird. Earth is weird. She pulled up a comparison chart. Look at this. Every species the HFY control evolved on stable, low-radiation worlds with consistent magnetic fields. Their brains developed in calm, predictable environments. And Earth? Wade prompted. Earth is a nightmare world by galactic standards, Helen explained. Our magnetic field flips every few 100,000 years. We get bombarded by cosmic radiation. Our sun throws off massive solar flares. Human brains evolved with natural shielding against electromagnetic interference because we had to. Laura leaned forward. You're saying we're immune to telepathy? Not immune, but highly resistant, Helen corrected. The HFY's mental attacks feel uncomfortable to us, like a bad headache. But they can't actually take control. We're the first species they've encountered with natural defenses against their primary weapon. The room went quiet as everyone absorbed this information. If telepathy is their primary weapon, Lieutenant Kevin Morris said slowly, what about their secondary weapons? Their ships, their actual military technology? Wade pulled up intelligence gathered from long-range observations. That's what worries me. We don't have enough data. The answer came from an unexpected source 2 weeks later. A small alien ship appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system, broadcasting a distress signal. When brought aboard a human station, the sole occupant identified himself as Ambassador Torvin of the 7th Fleet. The Torvin looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird, with scaled skin and bright, intelligent eyes. Unlike the mind-controlled aliens Daniel had seen on Zenith Prime, this one was clearly acting of his own will. You must listen, Torvin said, speaking through a translation device. The HFY fleet is gathering. They will come for your world in 4 months now. You must run or submit. We're not doing either, Daniel said. He had been assigned to handle the alien refugee. We're going to fight. Torvin made a sound that might have been a laugh. Fight? No one fights the HFY. They are supreme. They are eternal. They failed to control us, Laura pointed out. That makes them less than supreme. Torvin's eyes widened. Failed? Impossible. The HFY control has never failed. It failed on us, Daniel confirmed. We think it's because our brains evolved differently. For a long moment, Torvin just stared at them. Then he began to shake. Daniel realized the alien was crying. 400 years, Torvin whispered. 400 years my people have served the HFY. We remember freedom only in ancient stories. And you say they cannot control you? That's right, Laura said gently. Can you tell us about their military? Their actual fighting capability? Over the next hours, Torvin revealed what he knew. The picture that emerged was startling. The Kethvari have not fought a real war in over 2,000 years, Torvin explained. They don't need to. When they encounter a new species, they simply take control of the leaders. The species surrenders without firing a shot. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, a tactical analyst, jumped on this. What about the species that resisted? The 17 extinct races? The Kethvari use controlled species to destroy them, Torvin said. They turn your neighbors into weapons against you. Your own allies become your executioners. But what about the Kethvari themselves? Amy pressed. Their ships, their weapons, their soldiers? Torvin thought carefully. I have served on their vessels. I have seen their technology. It is old. Very old. They do not innovate because they do not need to. Why improve your weapons when you can control your enemy's mind? Helen Parker had joined the interrogation. How old is their technology? The ships I've seen use designs from before my species even achieved spaceflight, Torvin said. Perhaps 3,000 years old, maybe older. The Kethvari saw no reason to advance. Supremacy made them stagnant. Wade and Daniel exchanged looks. This was the opening they needed. Over the next 3 months, Earth transformed itself. Every shipyard worked overtime building new vessels. Engineer Greg Sullivan led teams designing ships with redundant systems and manual backups for every function, making them harder to sabotage even if the Kethvari found a way to affect human minds. Amy Rodriguez studied every scrap of information about Kethvari tactics. The pattern was always the same. They approached, they dominated minds, they won without fighting. They had never needed to develop real combat doctrine. Helen Parker's team worked on a different problem. If humans were naturally resistant to Kethvari telepathy, could they share that resistance with others? I think I can do it, Helen announced at a meeting 3 months into their preparation. A helmet that generates a low-level electromagnetic field matching the natural interference pattern of Earth's magnetic field. It won't make aliens immune like us, but it should disrupt Kethvari control enough to break their hold. How many can you make? Wade asked, with every factory on Earth working on it? Maybe a few 100,000 in the time we have left. Make them, Wade ordered, and send the designs to every colony, every station. We're going to need all the help we can get. Torvin proved invaluable during the preparations. He knew the layout of Kethvari ships, their standard formations, their expectations. He also helped Daniel understand something crucial. The Kethvari have never known fear, Torvin said one day. They believe themselves above such emotions. When you hurt them, when you make them bleed, they will not know how to respond. Good, Daniel said grimly. We're going to teach them. 2 weeks before the deadline, Earth received word from its outer colonies. Kethvari scout ships had been spotted. The invasion fleet was coming. Wade assembled his commanders for final orders. Daniel would lead the defensive fleet at Titan Station, humanity's furthest colony. It would be the first point of contact. Remember, Wade told them, the Kethvari expect us to fold immediately. They expect their mental domination to work. When it doesn't, they're going to be confused. Use that confusion. Hit them hard and fast. Daniel looked at the 30 ships under his command. 30 vessels against an empire that controlled thousands of worlds. The odds were terrible, but humans had faced terrible odds before. All ships, this is Captain Hayes, Daniel broadcast to his fleet. In a few days, we're going to meet an enemy that has never lost a battle. An enemy that thinks it's supreme, that thinks it's unbeatable. Let's show them what happens when you underestimate humanity. The response from his fleet was immediate. 30 ships acknowledged, their crews ready. On Earth, billions watched and waited. Messages arrived from subjugated alien species, most advising surrender. A few, very few, expressed quiet hope. The Kethvari fleet approached Earth's territory with absolute confidence. They had done this 17 times before. The 18th would be no different. They were very, very wrong. The HFY fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel like a swarm of insects. Captain Daniel Hayes watched from the bridge of the frontier as hundreds of ships appeared on his sensors. The flagship alone was 3 times the size of any human vessel. Contact in 30 minutes. Lieutenant Kevin Morris reported from Tactical. I'm counting 473 ships total. How many are HFY? Daniel asked. Only about 50. The rest are from controlled species. That matched what Torvin had told them. The HFY preferred to let their slaves do the actual fighting. Commander Laura Bennett moved to Daniel's side. The civilian evacuation from Titan Station is almost complete. Just a few more transports. Tell them to hurry, Daniel said. We're running out of time. On the flagship of the HFY fleet, Supreme War Leader Zethkar observed the human vessels with mild interest. 30 ships against his fleet. The humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Probably stupid. Begin the standard approach, Zethkar commanded. Project Dominance Field at maximum strength. Let us end this quickly. His subordinates obeyed. Across the HFY vessels, telepaths focused their combined mental power and projected it toward the human fleet. It was a wave of pure psychic force that had broken the will of countless species. On the frontier, Daniel felt it hit. His head throbbed. His vision blurred for a moment. Around the bridge, his crew grabbed their heads and groaned. Then it passed. Status report, Daniel called out. All ships responding, Captain, Lavra said, reading her console. Everyone reports the same thing. Bad headache, then nothing. Daniel allowed himself a small smile. They just fired their best weapon and it bounced off. Let's make sure they know it. All ships, begin attack pattern Alpha. Target the controlled vessels first. The human fleet surged forward. They had spent months training for this moment, practicing maneuvers and tactics. The HFY expected paralyzed enemies. Instead, they got coordinated aggression. Kevin launched the first missile spread. Weapons away. The missiles were crewed by HFY standards, using simple chemical propulsion and explosive warheads. But the HFY shields were designed to stop energy weapons, the kind that every controlled species used. The missiles went right through. Explosions blossomed across 3 controlled alien ships. Their shields flickered and died. Direct hits, Kevin reported. Enemy ships are damaged but still functional. Hit them again, Daniel ordered. On the HFY flagship, Zethkar stared at his displays in confusion. Why are they not paralyzed? Increased telepathic pressure. The HFY telepaths strained harder. On human ships, headaches got worse. Some crew members got nosebleeds. But no one lost control of their mind. It's not working, War Leader, one of his subordinates reported. I can see that, Zethkar snapped. Deploy controlled forces. Overwhelm them with numbers. The alien ships, their crews mentally enslaved, moved to attack. But they moved sluggishly. The HFY were trying to control hundreds of ships directly, and their attention was divided. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, commanding a destroyer squadron, noticed the enemy's hesitation. All ships, target the controlled vessels. They're moving like they're half asleep. Her ships dove into the enemy formation. The controlled aliens tried to respond, but their reactions were slow, their aim poor. It was like fighting people underwater. Daniel saw the pattern too. The HFY are controlling them directly. They're using so much mental energy that their slaves can barely function. Then we have an advantage, Lavra said. Our crews are acting on their own judgment. The battle spread across the space around Titan Station. Human ships used tactics the HFY had never seen before. They divided into small groups, attacking from multiple angles. They used debris fields for cover. They adapted on the fly to changing situations. The Kethvari fleet, dependent on central control, struggled to keep up. When Zethkar ordered his left flank to advance, it took precious seconds for the command to reach the controlled crews. By then, human ships had already moved to exploit the gap. "This is impossible," Zethkar muttered. "They should be broken by now. They should be surrendering." Major Patricia Cole led the first boarding action. Her Marines used breaching pods to attach to a disabled alien vessel. When they cut through the hull, they found the alien crew sitting motionless at their stations, eyes glazed over. "They're like robots," Patricia reported back to Daniel. "They're not even defending themselves." "Take the ship intact if you can," Daniel ordered. "We need intelligence." Patricia and her team secured the vessel without firing a shot. The controlled aliens simply sat there, waiting for orders that would never come. The battle continued for 3 hours. The Kethvari kept throwing controlled ships at the humans, expecting their numbers to eventually overwhelm the smaller fleet. But human crews were rested, alert, and fighting for their homes. The controlled aliens were exhausted puppets, pushed beyond their limits. Finally, Daniel saw his opening. The Kethvari flagship had moved forward, trying to get close enough for maximum telepathic effect. In doing so, it had separated itself from its escorts. "Kevin, I need a firing solution on that flagship," Daniel said. "Got it, Captain. But their shields are strong. Our missiles might not penetrate. Then we'll deliver the warheads personally." Larva signaled the fleet. "We're going after their command ship." 10 human vessels broke formation and accelerated toward the Kethvari flagship. Zethkar saw them coming and ordered his escorts to intercept, but the controlled ships were too slow to react. The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Missiles, railgun projectiles, and laser batteries all converged on the flagship's shields. The Kethvari vessel shuddered under the assault. "Shields holding at 60%. Zethkar's tactical officer reported. "Return fire," Zethkar commanded. "Destroy them." The flagship's weapons opened up. Energy beams lanced out toward the human ships. But the Kethvari hadn't fought a real battle in millennia. Their gunners were out of practice. Most of the shots missed. Daniel's ship took a glancing hit that knocked out power to one deck, but the Frontier kept coming. At his signal, Patricia launched her Marines in boarding pods directly at the flagship's hull. The pods hit like meteors, burning through the outer armor with shaped charges. Patricia and 50 Marines poured into the Kethvari ship. Inside, they found themselves in corridors that were beautiful but impractical. High ceilings, artistic flourishes, wide open spaces. It was a ship designed to impress, not to fight. "Split into teams," Patricia ordered. "Find their command center." The Kethvari crew tried to stop them. But the Kethvari had evolved as telepaths, not warriors. Their bodies were tall but thin, their muscles weak. When Patricia's Marines encountered them in hand-to-hand combat, the results were one-sided. A Kethvari soldier tried to project fear directly into Patricia's mind. She felt it like a cold wind but kept moving. Her rifle butt caught the alien across the face, dropping him instantly. "They're fragile," Patricia reported. "Physically, they're no match for us." Zethkar felt panic rising in his chest, an emotion he had never experienced before. His telepathy was useless. His controlled forces were being cut down. And now humans were inside his ship, fighting their way toward him. "Security teams to the command deck," he ordered. But his security teams were trained to intimidate subjugated species, not to fight determined soldiers. Patricia's team reached the command deck and blew the door. They rushed in to find Zethkar standing alone, his crew having fled or been knocked aside. The war leader tried one last time to dominate Patricia's mind. She felt pressure behind her eyes, like someone pushing on the inside of her skull. Then it faded. "You're under arrest," Patricia said, raising her weapon. Zethkar stared at her. In 2,000 years, no Kethvari military leader had ever been captured. The concept was literally unthinkable. "This cannot be," he whispered. "It is," Patricia replied. "Order your fleet to stand down." For a long moment, Zethkar said nothing. Then, slowly he reached for his communication device. "All Kethvari vessels, cease fire. All controlled forces, disengage." The battle stopped as suddenly as it had started. The controlled alien crews, released from the immediate mental pressure, simply drifted in space, confused and disoriented. Daniel surveyed the battlefield. His fleet had lost 3 ships and taken heavy damage on 5 more. But the Kethvari had lost their flagship, 37 controlled vessels, and the thing they valued most, their mystique of invincibility. "Signal Earth," Daniel said. "Tell them we won." All across the galaxy, subjugated species received the news. The Supreme Kethvari had been defeated. For the first time in 2,000 years, their control seemed less than absolute. Some species dared to hope. Others feared what would come next. But everyone knew the galaxy had just changed forever. Admiral Christopher Wade stood before the holographic display showing the galactic map. In the 3 months since the battle at Titan Station, everything had changed. Red markers showed Kethvari strongholds. Blue markers showed liberated worlds. The blue was spreading. "Next target is Korath 7, Wade said, pointing to a mining world deep in Kethvari territory. "Intelligence suggests they're holding 10,000 alien workers there." Captain Daniel Hayes studied the tactical data. Since capturing Supreme War Leader Zethkar, he had been promoted to lead humanity's offensive operations. "What kind of resistance are we expecting?" 2 Kethvari cruisers and maybe 20 controlled security vessels, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez reported. She had become their expert on Kethvari tactics. "Standard garrison setup. We'll hit them hard and fast," Daniel said. "Same strategy as before. The Kethvari still haven't adapted to fighting an enemy they can't control." Commander Lavra Bennett brought up another concern. "We're getting more volunteers from freed species. The Torvin sent 3 ships last week. The Qualics sent 5. They all want to fight. Can we trust them?" Wade asked. "Dr. Parker's telepathic shielding helmets are working," Lavra said. "As long as they wear them, the Kethvari can't retake control. But they're afraid. 2,000 years of slavery doesn't go away overnight." Daniel had seen that fear firsthand. When they liberated alien workers, many refused to believe they were truly free. Some begged to be put back under Kethvari control because it was all they knew. "We'll take the volunteers who are ready," Daniel decided. "Place them in support roles for now. Let them build confidence." Engineer Greg Sullivan entered the briefing room carrying a data tablet. His teams had been reverse engineering captured Kethvari technology for months. "You need to see this," Greg said, pulling up schematics. "We've analyzed their ships, their weapons, everything. It's all ancient. Like, seriously ancient. Their newest design is over 1,500 years old. They stopped innovating," Wade said. "It wasn't a question. Completely. Why improve your technology when you can just control your enemies' minds?" But here's the interesting part. Greg zoomed in on a power distribution system. Their ships are incredibly efficient. They could have upgraded to more powerful weapons 1,000 years ago, but they never needed to. Their shields could be twice as strong with simple modifications. They just never bothered. "Arrogance," Amy said. "They thought they were supreme, so they saw no reason to improve." "Which gives us another advantage," Daniel noted. "Our technology is crude compared to what they could build, but it's advancing fast. Theirs is stagnant." A communication came through from the science division. Dr. Helen Parker appeared on the screen, looking excited. "Admiral, we've made a breakthrough," Helen said. We've been studying war leader Zethkar and other Kethvari prisoners. Their telepathy isn't as all-powerful as we thought. Explain, Wade ordered. They can only control a limited number of minds at once. When they try to dominate large populations, they have to work together in groups. And there's a range limit. The further away they are, the weaker their control. Helen pulled up data charts. During the battle at Titan Station, we saw their controlled ships moving slowly because the Kethvari were dividing their attention. They literally cannot multitask the way we can. So, if we force them to control multiple fronts simultaneously, Daniel said slowly, we can overwhelm them. Exactly. Their supreme control is actually a weakness when facing an opponent who can resist it. Wade began formulating a new strategy. Instead of single, concentrated attacks, humanity would launch simultaneous strikes across multiple systems. Force the Kethvari to spread their telepaths thin. The offensive began 2 weeks later. Daniel led the assault on Korath 7, while other human fleets hit targets across Kethvari space. The mining world's garrison never stood a chance. When Daniel's Marines landed, they found the alien workers chained in underground facilities. The conditions were horrific. The Kethvari didn't need to maintain comfortable prisons when they could simply command their slaves to obey. Major Patricia Cole personally removed the neural control collar from the first freed worker, a Torvan female named Keleth. You're free, Patricia told her. The Kethvari can't hurt you anymore. Keleth stared at her, not understanding. Then the helmet Helen's team had designed was placed on her head. The low electromagnetic field disrupted any remaining Kethvari influence. Keleth's eyes cleared. Free? She whispered. Then louder. Free. The word spread through the prison camp like fire. 10,000 voices began shouting it in a dozen different languages. Free. Free. But liberation came with complications. Many of the freed workers had been slaves their entire lives. They didn't know how to make decisions for themselves. They looked to their liberators with the same desperate need for direction. They had shown their captors. Laura Bennett worked with them, slowly teaching them how to choose again. It was painfully slow work. Meanwhile, the war expanded. Lieutenant Kevin Morris commanded a frigate squadron that liberated a Kethvari research facility. What they found there turned his stomach. The Kethvari had been experimenting on children from subjugated species, trying to make them into more effective servants. Rooms full of young aliens, their minds deliberately shaped and molded from birth to serve without question. Get medical teams down here immediately, Kevin ordered. And someone find Dr. Parker. These children need help. When Helen saw the facility, she wept. They're trying to breed a generation that doesn't even know freedom exists. Children who think slavery is normal. Patricia's Marines found and destroyed 6 more facilities like it over the next month. Each one strengthened humanity's resolve. This wasn't just a war for survival anymore. It was a war to end an evil that had existed for 2,000 years. The Kethvari High Council, meeting on Zenith Prime, watched their empire crumble with growing alarm. High Speaker Kethmal called for emergency measures. We must destroy the human homeworld, one council member argued. Cut off the head of this resistance. And how do you propose we do that? Another member challenged. Every fleet we send against them is defeated. Our controlled species are unreliable now that they know freedom is possible. Then we use the ultimate sanction, Kethmal said quietly. We destroy entire worlds that harbor resistance. If we cannot control them, we will eliminate them. The order went out. Kethvari ships began targeting populated worlds for destruction. Not military targets, but civilian centers. Cities were burned from orbit. Millions died. When news reached Daniel, he felt rage like never before. They're killing innocents because they're losing. It's desperation, Amy said. They've ruled for 2,000 years through fear. Now they're trying to make people more afraid of resisting than of submitting. But the strategy backfired. Instead of terrifying the subjugated species into submission, it enraged them. If the HFY would kill them anyway, they might as well die fighting. Neutral species that had stayed out of the conflict began sending secret support to humanity. Ships, supplies, intelligence. The galactic community was turning against its former masters. One message arrived that changed everything. It came from Zenith Prime itself, from someone calling themselves Scholar Vethram. "I am HFY," the message said, "but I do not support what my people have become. I have information that can help you. Please, I wish to defect." Wade and Daniel debated whether it was a trap. Finally, they decided to risk it. A stealth team was sent to extract Vethram. The HFY scholar turned out to be genuine, and the information Vethram brought with him was devastating to the HFY cause. "There is a secret facility on Zenith Prime," Vethram explained. "A planetary telepathic amplifier. The High Council plans to activate it. It can enslave every mind in the galaxy simultaneously." "Every mind?" Helen asked in horror. "Except yours, apparently," Vethram said. "But every other species, yes. Billions of beings, all controlled at once. They would rather rule over a galaxy of puppets than lose their power." Daniel looked at Wade. "We have to stop them." "I know," Wade said. "Prepare the fleet. We're going to Zenith Prime." The final battle was coming. Humanity and its allies would strike at the heart of the HFY Dominion. Win, and the galaxy would be free. Lose, and trillions would spend eternity as slaves. There was no middle ground anymore. Only victory or extinction. The combined fleet assembled at the edge of HFY space. 200 human ships and another 100 vessels from freed species, all wearing the telepathic shielding technology that Dr. Helen Parker's team had developed. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. Captain Daniel Hayes stood on the bridge of the Frontier, now the flagship of the Liberation Fleet. Admiral Christopher Wade had chosen to command from Earth, coordinating reinforcements and supplies. This battle would belong to those who fought on the front lines. "All ships report ready," Commander Laura Bennett announced. "Then let's end this," Daniel said. "All ships, jump to Zenith Prime." The fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel to find exactly what Scholar Vethram had warned them about. The HFY had assembled their remaining forces, 300 ships orbiting their homeworld. But it was what sat on the planet's surface that made Daniel's blood run cold. The telepathic amplifier was massive. A tower reaching into the sky, with thousands of satellite dishes spreading across the landscape. At its base, sensor readings showed thousands of alien life signs. "They're using slaves as biological batteries," Helen said from her station. "Channeling their mental energy through the amplifier to boost the signal. How long until it activates?" Daniel asked. "Unknown. Could be hours, could be minutes." Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez pulled up tactical data. "The HFY fleet is positioning itself between us and the amplifier. They're going to make us fight through them." "Then that's what we'll do," Daniel decided. "Lavra, send a message to all freed species in the galaxy. Tell them what's happening here. If we fail, they need to know why." The message went out across every channel. On 1,000 worlds, beings who had tasted freedom for the first time in their lives listened as humanity prepared to make its final stand. On Zenith Prime, High Speaker Kethmal watched the human fleet approach. Around him, the other members of the Supreme Council prepared for the amplifier's activation. "They are fools to come here," Kethmal said. "When the amplifier activates, we will control every being in this system. The humans will watch as their own allies turn against them." "And the humans themselves?" Another council member asked. "They will die last," Kethmal replied. I want them to see their resistance crumble before we eliminate them." The battle began with a massive exchange of fire. The Kethvari fleet moved to block the human advance, their controlled servants dying by the thousands. Daniel hated every second of it. These weren't enemies, they were victims. "Focus on the Kethvari command ships," he ordered. "If we can disrupt their telepaths, the controlled vessels might break free." Major Patricia Cole led a squadron of fighters through the enemy formation. Her target was a Kethvari control vessel, a ship designed specifically to coordinate large numbers of enslaved forces. If she could take it out, hundreds of controlled ships might regain their freedom. "Engaging target," Patricia reported as her squadron opened fire. The control vessel tried to evade, but it was slow, designed for coordination rather than combat. Patricia's missiles punched through its shields and tore into the hull. The ship exploded in a ball of fire. Immediately, 50 nearby alien vessels stopped moving. Their crews, suddenly released from mental control, sat confused at their stations. "It worked," Lawver said. "If we can take out enough control ships, we might win this without killing everyone." The time was running out. On the surface, the amplifier began to glow with an eerie light. "Daniel, the amplifier is powering up," Helen warned. "We have maybe 10 minutes. Then we're out of time for subtlety," Daniel decided. "Kevin, I need a strike team on the ground. Now." Lieutenant Kevin Morris had been preparing for exactly this. "Marine transports are ready. We'll punch through their defenses and land near the amplifier." "I'm going with you," Daniel said. "Captain." "Your place is on the bridge," Lawver protested. "My place is wherever I'm needed most," Daniel replied. "You have command, Lara. If we fail, get the fleet out of here." Daniel joined Kevin and Patricia in the hangar bay. 50 Marines loaded into assault transports, each one equipped with the best weapons and armor humanity could provide. As they launched toward the planet, Kethvari defense batteries opened fire. 2 transports exploded before reaching the surface. The rest crash-landed near the amplifier complex. Daniel's transport hit hard, throwing everyone forward against their restraints. "Everyone out," Patricia shouted. "Move, move." They poured out of the transports into a war zone. Kethvari ground forces were waiting, thousands of controlled aliens armed and ready. But these slaves were even slower than the ones in space, their minds stretched thin by the amplifier's power drain. Daniel's team fought their way toward the amplifier tower. Every meter was purchased with blood. Patricia took a hit to her shoulder, but kept moving. Kevin's helmet cracked, but he refused to stop. Inside the tower, they found the true horror of what the Kethvari had built. Thousands of aliens hung in suspension fields, their minds being drained to power the amplifier. Some had been there for years. Many were barely alive. "We have to free them," Daniel said. "If we do, the amplifier might activate," engineer Greg Sullivan warned. He had come with the ground team specifically to handle the technology. Their mental energy is keeping it in standby. If we cut the connection suddenly, it could trigger automatically. Helen Parker, who had also insisted on coming, studied the system. "There's a manual override. If we can reach the control center, I can safely disconnect them." "Then let's move," Daniel ordered. They fought deeper into the tower, facing Kethvari guards who finally had no choice but to fight personally. The Kethvari were not warriors. They fell quickly to human determination. At the control center, they found 3 members of the High Council operating the amplifier. High Speaker Kethmal turned to face Daniel with cold hatred in his eyes. "You have already lost," Kethmal said. "In moments, this device will activate. Every species except yours will fall under our absolute control. We will make them tear you apart with their own hands." "Not if we stop you," Daniel replied, raising his weapon. Kethmal's eyes blazed with telepathic energy. He threw everything he had at Daniel's mind. The pressure was immense, worse than anything Daniel had felt before. His vision went white. His head felt like it was splitting open, but he remained standing. Impossible? Kethmal whispered. Daniel pulled the trigger. Kethmal fell. Helen rushed to the controls as the other council members fled. Her fingers flew across the console, reading the alien interface as fast as she could. I can shut it down, but I need time to safely disconnect the slaves, she said. 5 minutes minimum. You've got it, Patricia said, positioning her Marines at the entrance. Above, in space, Lavra watched as more Kethvari ships converged on the planet. Daniel, we can't hold them off much longer. Whatever you're doing, do it fast. In the tower, Helen worked frantically. One by one, she began disconnecting the enslaved aliens from the amplifier. Each disconnection had to be done carefully, or the shock would kill them. The Kethvari launched a desperate counterattack. Waves of controlled soldiers threw themselves at the tower. Patricia's Marines held the line, but they were being pushed back. 2 more minutes, Helen said, her hands never stopping. Kevin's position was overrun. He fell back, wounded, but still fighting. We can't hold them. You have to, Daniel said, joining the defense. He picked up a rifle from a fallen Marine and fired into the advancing horde. Above the planet, Lavra made a decision. All ships, concentrate fire on the ground forces around the amplifier. Danger close to our people, but they need support. Human ships opened fire with pinpoint accuracy, dropping ordnance within meters of Daniel's position. Explosions tore through the Kethvari forces. Last one, Helen said, disconnecting the final slave. System shut down in 3, 2, 1. The amplifier's glow faded and died. All across the galaxy, beings who had felt its activation beginning suddenly felt the pressure lift. The Kethvari had failed. On Zenith Prime, the controlled alien soldiers suddenly stopped fighting. Their eyes cleared for the first time in years, decades, sometimes centuries. They looked at the weapons in their hands with horror and confusion. The Kethvari fleet, realizing their ultimate weapon was destroyed, began the retreat. But the freed species turned on them. Ships that had served the Dominion for generations suddenly switched sides. They're surrendering, Lavra reported to Daniel. The Kethvari are surrendering. Daniel sat down heavily among the freed slaves. Patricia was being treated for her wounds. Kevin was being carried out on a stretcher, but would survive. They had won, but the cost had been high. Over the next weeks, the Kethvari Dominion collapsed completely. Without their telepathic control, they were just another species, and not a particularly strong one. The freed races debated what to do with them. Some called for extinction, revenge for 2,000 years of slavery. Others argued for imprisonment, for trials, for justice. In the end, it was Admiral Wade who proposed the solution that humanity supported. The Kethvari are defeated, Wade said to the new Galactic Council. They're no longer a threat. But if we exterminate them, we become what they were. We become conquerors. What do you suggest? The Torvan ambassador asked. Restriction, not destruction. The Kethvari live, but under supervision. Their telepathic abilities are monitored,